I'm now delighted to be joined by Jason Davies, co-founder and CEO of Simon Data. Jason, such a pleasure to have you on the program today.
Thank you, Ryan. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's great to be at the conference in 2024.
Jason, at Simon Data, you are reimagining the road to one-on-one customer relationships. What's the data showing you?
I mean, look, we're at an inflection point. And what excites me the most is the potential. We've been working with Snowflake now, since the inception of the business almost 10 years ago. And we're really at a point where it's almost the perfect storm, where businesses are looking at the opportunity to leverage their enterprise investments. They're looking at the cost of doing business. They're looking at the challenges that their marketing team has around raw execution. And they're really asking there has to be a better way. Those three forces have come together in a way to really just have every CMO rethinking how they're doing business today. And we've really just been evangelizing our vision, which is really the marketing manifestation of Snowflake's broader application and business application strategy. And for us, it's really just carrying that momentum forward. Rethinking your data strategy as something which is more than cloud-enabled data warehousing, more than cloud-enabled BI. On really asking how do you transform your data investments into the operational center, across your broader business, and for Simon Data across the customer experience and marketing applications.
Great to hear, Jason. Looking forward to diving in here. In today's ever-increasing competitive landscape, why is it so crucial for not only data scientists, but also executives to have easy access to all customer data in order to drive actionable insights?
Yeah, look, I mean, data is no longer a back office function.
Right.
Data needs to be elevated to something that actually drives business outcomes. Look, at Simon Data, one of our values as a business is something we call ownership. And it's really this concept that everyone in the business needs to be able to drive an outcome, that's measurable, that's impactful. And historically, the problem is, for marketing functions, they have not had ownership around their data. It's always been relegated to back office functions. It's always been a data pipeline that's circuitous, that's clumsy, that's impossible to operationalize, that's always breaking. And this is all changing, and this all has to change. And what's in front of us is a world where data access, is 100 times easier than it was even a few years ago. And also data capabilities are 100 times more powerful. So you put those two things together and put a next generation of data with the next generation of AI at the fingertips of everyone, from the lowest level email marketer to a CMO at a modern data-driven marketing organization, or direct-to-consumer business rather, and you really just have a recipe which is transformative.
I love that recipe for success. Indeed, the excitement is all around us here at Snowflake Summit, where the topic of the day remains AI. As a founder and CEO and having a PhD in AI, what advice would you like to give to the audience watching on how to best integrate this technology to position their businesses for success into the future?
Yeah, and I'm giving a bullpen talk on this very subject tomorrow. And I always
sneak peek here.
Yes, I always joke that it took me 5 years into my dissertation, when I was in grad school working on a machine learning PhD, to realize the value in data isn't in the algorithm. Ultimately, it's in the application. Right. And everyone is so excited about LLMs, and they should be. But the question you have to ask is, what's the application, and are you really tracing it backwards? There's one thing to have an AI strategy and say AI needs to touch everything, and those sorts of corporate mandates can be effective when used in the right way to encourage innovation. In certain cases, we see them as broad hammers being applied in ways that don't make sense. So it's really important to get that tight coupling between the AI and the application, and the way to do that is to start small. Don't undertake big projects. These things are incredibly simple. Our Copilot functionality that we've embedded into our application, we came from talking to our customers, who are just copying and pasting code between, Simon Data and OpenAI. And we said, hey, this is a great, incredibly lightweight way of leveraging LLMs, and we made it 10 times better by integrating the metadata and integrating the workflow and making sure that the runtimes and all the code that our Copilot generates actually compiles and works and has those checks. But this is a great example of just starting super small, and I think for CMOs and executives today, encourage your team to use OpenAI when it makes sense. Encourage your team to get familiar with the tools. And I think the question to ask is, once you get that proof of concept, how do you then productionize it, operationalize it? And I'm tremendously excited around where Snowflake is heading, because as much innovation as OpenAI and ChatGPT has brought to market, there are real limitations when it comes to customer data and first-party data. So that's a big area of investment for us as a platform. But it does represent, I think, a next frontier in how AI is used. And it does introduce a whole set of privacy, regulatory, compliance challenges that, look, none of our customers would ever want their data shoved, their sensitive customer data shoved into any third-party hosted AI application, and we agree 100% with this. So there really is a new frontier. You look at what Snowflake has done with Arctic and Cortex. There's a huge opportunity in front of us. But at the same time, I think if you haven't crawled first, don't start running. Crawl first. Everyone should be using OpenAI before trying to do anything powerful. Figure out what works and what doesn't, and from that point, go and build production-hardened, scaled systems.
Great advice. Thank you so much, Jason. Now I want to get slightly personal with you. I love the opportunity to sit down with founders. Can you walk us through the founding story behind Simon Data, and how are your founding principles remained the bedrock for everything the team does today?
Yeah, look, when we started the business with my co-founder and CTO, Matt Walker, over almost 10 years ago now, we really started it from a place of 2 points of insights. The first is the power of cloud data. And when we started the business, we had heard about Snowflake, but it was still just a speck on the wall. But we had seen the power of on-prem data systems, Hadoop, and a previous generation of technologies. My previous business was acquired by Etsy, and while we were there, we built out all their data infrastructure, and it was a fascinating journey. Because today you can spend $8 an hour and spin up a Snowflake cluster and try things out. 10, 15 years ago, we spent $3 million on hardware. We bought millions of dollars of software licenses. Some guy showed up at our office with a DeWalt jacket and a drill, and had a whole bunch of hardware, and he ran off to Secaucus, New Jersey to rack these servers. And then 3 months later, we logged into the Linux prompt, and then you could install the software. And a year later, you had your data warehouse and your centralized source of truth. But it was a massive build out. The systems were primitive, but it was a phase change over not having anything at all.
Right.
And then when we saw what cloud data could affect, we really sort of asked, what would happen if every business had these kind of capabilities?
Right.
What could happen if you had the power of the cloud to have that kind of scalability that can really drive a next generation of applications? And the second bucket was just looking at the leverage that marketing workloads have on driving outcomes. Everything from really understanding your customer base, to drive product launches effectively, to thinking about optimization across the funnel and real-time opportunities, to really just educate your customers and drive outcomes to drive conversions and increase customer lifetime value. Those two things together, it's about building a new way of looking at data. One where historically, 10 years ago, it was about analytical workloads, BI, as I said before, and really looking at data as a platform. As an operational workhorse, and as something that integrates very directly into business processes that are very clearly measurable.
Great to hear Simon Data always putting the customer first along that journey and path. Jason, really appreciate your time, your insights, and your perspectives on the journey to get to this point. What's next for Simon Data, and as you look out on the coming months, what's your primary focus?
Look, I really think we're at the tip of the iceberg around, spent too much time at Snowflake already using Snowflake analogies, but there's so much ahead of us. I think Simon Data is 10% along on the broad vision of what's possible. You really look at the potential of leveraging the next generation of AI. We have a thesis that customer data platforms and marketing actually. Customer data is interesting, but enterprise data, non-customer data, is far more impactful. I presented with Zillow's SVP of Marketing, just earlier today about the joint work that we're doing with them at Simon Data. And look, I spent 5 minutes on Zillow yesterday. It's interesting. But now let's actually get into what's really interesting. What kind of home did I look at? Did I look at starter homes? Did I look at homes in zip codes that are traditionally vacation homes? Did I look at rentals? Did I contact an agent? If I contacted an agent, was it a seller's agent or a buyer's agent? There's so much context around data that is not attached to the customer that's critical to actually understanding what is my intent as a consumer. And these opportunities, these problems are still very much in front of us for so many brands.
And that's very much the power of the broader ecosystem.
Exactly.
Jason, such a pleasure having you on the program here today.
Thanks for having me.
And for the audience watching, I'm Ryan Green with Data Cloud Now. I'll see you soon.